So, hi everyone. Welcome to the Visionary Entertainment Leaders Conference. My name's Lisa Long. So, our first speaker is Jody Bentley. And Jody is an actor, a producer, audiobook narrator, and creative business coach. A graduate of New York University's Tisch School of the Arts, and she has a BFA in acting. She's worked for Netflix, Hulu, ABC, CBS, and many more. Over the past 13 years, she's also been educating actors and artists on how to achieve their goals, implement success strategies, become organizational masters, stop the self-sabotage, and own their brand. She has taught workshops on all of the above at SAG-AFTRA, Actors Equity, Comecom, Comicase, and over 50 universities and training programs. So I'd like to welcome to the stage. Hi, Jody. It's nice
Hi.
to have you here.
Oh, it's so lovely to be here with you. Yes. And I loved hearing your story. I didn't know much about that. And I think it's so powerful what you were saying because it is about tapping into our authenticity and getting out of our own way. And I feel like that was a part of my journey, part of my story. My countless clients, I think, can share the same thing of when we really can tap into our truth and listen to ourselves, like then things become easier, And when we
I
resist and resist
totally.
and resist, it's so hard.
But most people, it's unconscious. You don't know why
Right.
you're resisting. You're just stuck. It's just, I can't go there. I'm scared. Something in me is scared and I just can't go there. And,
Exactly.
and when you can clear that and get rid of it, it just opens up. And
Yeah.
in fact, I've cleared things where I looked outside and all at once I could see more colors
Uh,
because you get to a higher dimension and you have access to more colors and more beauty.
mm, yeah.
It's amazing. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, Jody?
Of course, yeah. Well, you got the beginning part of I'm an actor, producer. I narrate audiobooks. You can hear my voice on Audible. I narrate news articles, and I've been a career coach for actors and artists for a very long time. Yeah, but I went to NYU. I lived in New York for 20 years, and I would say I graduated NYU with that great school on my resume, and I'm like, I'm gonna be famous in like a year, and it didn't happen that way at all. And I found myself burnt out, bitter, and jaded after about 2 years of graduating college. And I was like, this business is hard. What am I doing? So for about, I would say 6 months, I read every business book I could get my hands on, every self-help book I could get my hands on, everything I could get my hands on. And I started creating systems and structures to approach my career as a business. And within those 6 months, that's when I signed with my first agent. That's when I got my first off-Broadway show. That's when I got a cast recording with Stephen Schwartz. I was one of his smaller musicals in New York. And I was like, okay, this is working. What did I do? And then I started to assess and figure out. And that's when I started really creating branding systems for actors, marketing systems for actors, but also really looking at the mindset and the self-sabotage that we do, because that's what I did for years. And that was just kept getting in my way. Because I think you can be the most talented actor, writer, director, whatever in the world. But if you're constantly getting in your way and stopping you, or if you don't have business tools or systems to get you out in the world, then none of it matters. So that's what I spent my time doing in New York. And then I started a business, and then I started another business, and then I moved to LA, and now I'm here doing another business. Many reincarnations of my coaching business. So that's what I do now. I'm still acting. I audition all the time, even here in the middle of a pandemic, and I narrate my audiobooks in my booth in the corner over there. And in the other time during the week, I have one-on-one coaching clients, and I have a couple programs and courses that I teach and walk people through.
Wow, that's amazing. It sounds like fun. What got you into acting? What was your
Oh God. I started acting when I was 10, when I was in like a high school show when I was 10 years old. And I remember being terrified, like the first night of the performance. I was like, why did I do this? What am I doing? And I think my voice like dropped 2 octaves on my first line. Like I was just terrified. And then the applause came and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Right. So I think it started off in vanity and ego, but then it morphed more into I can tell stories. I get to bring characters to life. I get to change people's perspectives on things. And that's why I became a producer, similar to what you're saying, Lisa, is I started thinking about, yes, as an actor, I get to tell stories that I want to tell, but it's also, it matters what other people are writing and what I'm getting auditions for and what I'm booking. But as a producer, I had more control. I have more control over the legacy that I want to leave. I want to make all my producing projects are about raising human consciousness in some level. I'm not preachy, not overhanded, but really showing how we're all connected, that we are human, just to have people think and question even how they perceive things in the world. Just realizing as a producer, I get to have more impact, very similar to your story. So that's what drives me and keeps me going.
If you're picky.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, you get to choose whether you do cigarette commercials or,
right.
when you sign up for things. And so I was always picky, maybe a little too picky.
But that sort of leads me to one of the first points that I wanted to talk about today, though, is value system, your value system, right? Because I think, like you said, I was picky, didn't want to go out for cigarette commercials. Well, that was a value you had. That wasn't something you wanted to put out into the world. And you're very much in your right to say no to that. But I think a lot of times, I think especially actors or young actors starting out, and I'm sure it's the same with other creatives, we want to just say yes to everything, right? Whether it goes against our value system, whether it goes against anything, because it's an opportunity and we feel I'm not going to get this again, I must do it. But I think that's a big issue that occurs is, do you ever get that feeling like in your solar plexus when you go, oh, like you make a choice and it just feels weird? You made a choice that went against your own value system. So I think really understanding what your core values are is fundamental in decision making, is fundamental in creation, is fundamental in how you want to show up in the world, because you do make decisions based on your value systems, whether you're conscious of it or not, is what you're saying, Lisa. We're very
it's you're literally programmed like a little computer. And so you get your genetic programming.
Yeah.
And then when you're a little kid, you're open and you're this little ball of light, and this stuff hits you, even if your parents don't say it to you. If they think it about themselves, especially when you're below 5 years old, like your mom can think, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm struggling, or I always have a hard time. And she's projecting that energy. And as this little ball of light, you just absorb it and you don't really have conscious awareness. It's not you, it's not yours.
Right.
And so then you start clearing that stuff. So it's more than a value system. It's a dumbing down of consciousness that the earth became pretty dense. But I'm really impressed with actors and writers here. They hear their guts. They call it muse. And actors, they have to be real with their feeling. Otherwise, they're flat. They're not a good actor. So they have to go deep into who they really are in order to project that on the screen. And that takes guts.
Oh, it takes so much courage.
Because you're out there in front of people and you're being seen, being judged. And those judgments hit you if you're not clear.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll hit you in different places. And that's why when we create movies and scenes and everything that help people feel better, if you're watching something and the tears start streaming, you're literally getting clear. You're getting clear of some place in you that was like a place in your circuitry that was pinched off. And so you clear that. And so anybody that can help people clear those energies and move forward is high level. And if you do it through teaching acting or teaching writing or even anything, it really helps people move forward.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's why we're here, is to be happy. We don't have to do anything.
Right.
You get bored. It's okay. I got $10 million in the bank. What do? I go sit on the beach for a week or two and then I'm bored. I realized that years ago, and I don't have 10 million yet, but it's coming. But you'd get bored. It's what do I do with this? What do I do next? What do I want to do that's fun?
Mhm.
So, how do you bring that to your clients? How do you bring that to your students?
Mm. A few different ways. I think I talk a lot now. What I teach has morphed over the years, obviously, as trends have changed in our business and our industry, and the world becomes more conscious and all of that. And I think as when I first started off as a coach, it was very much just, okay, here's brand, here's marketing, here's strategy, go. And I think as I've evolved as a human and tapped more into my consciousness, I'm able to help lift others. And so I really approach stuff in a very holistic way. So I approach business in a very holistic way. So I think one of the big things I do with a lot of my clients is, and that's what my program is that I just launched called Dare to Be Unstoppable, is really examining the excuses that we tell ourselves, because all of this resistance that we or fear manifests in outward excuses, right? So if you can identify what these excuses are and these patterns that keep coming up that keep you in stasis, then you can start to move forward from there. So I think the biggest thing, and I always say that, is your mind is a freaking liar. Like, your mind lies to you all the time, and we listen to it and we believe it and we think that it's us, and it's not. And our mind is really there to keep us safe. It's just there to protect us and keep us safe. But what happens, especially for creatives, it keeps us small. And you can't be small and be a creative. You can't be small and be creating films and putting them out in the world. You can't be small and show up to an audition. It just does not work. So I think I really support people and just identifying what are the patterns, what are those excuses, what keeps coming up, and why. One question I always ask is, what's the benefit? Right? What's the benefit in that excuse? For example, like my go-to excuse that I love all the time is, I have no time. I don't have time. I'm so busy. I have no time. I love that. I love that excuse. Why? Because it makes me feel busy. It makes me feel important, makes me feel like I'm always doing something. So it serves a benefit to even carry that excuse for me. So I have to be aware of that and not look at that as my fallback and go, no, my time is my own and I get to choose what I do with it. I mean, I think that's really important, just to understand that all the excuses we're telling ourselves, we like to call them justifications, right? But it's really just an excuse that's holding us back. All those excuses serve you in some way. And once you identify what that benefit is, then it's like the aha moment of, okay, now I can shift it. But I think a lot of people don't fully examine the resistance, the struggle, what is happening to them in the moment, what is coming up for them in the moment. And as you said, it's pre-programmed for when we're super young. And it all ties into limiting beliefs that we carry. And I think they manifest in these outward excuses.
They manifest in your outward world.
Yeah.
You're literally creating it. So if your world is coming back to you like Groundhog Day,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
then you're not really moving forward. You're recreating reality from the past.
Oh, all the time.
And it takes, God, I keep getting the word balls, but it takes guts to do that. It takes guts
say, Paul, do that.
to get yourself to the next level. You got to go inside. You can't go outside. Nobody doing it to you. Right. They're just a mirror helping you get to the next level.
Exactly.
And when you can get that, you can shift quicker. But it's still, it's law of attraction. If you've constantly beat yourself up and thought, I'm not good enough, I'm too old, I'm too ugly, I'm too young, I'm too stupid, and you've got these patterns going, it's like a record.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's like this record's on, you got to break those patterns because it's law of attraction.
Yep.
And it's strong. It gets stronger. I have a little short I wrote about, I call it the little boogie. And the little boogies are these little thought forms. And I can literally see them floating around people.
Yeah.
And help them move those thought forms off of their energy field.
Oh, I love that.
It's, if you believe it, then it's the law of attraction attracts other thoughts like it. And then that thought form gets more power. And then when it gets more power, it's harder for you to let it go because if you fight it, you actually give it power.
Exactly.
So you've got to distract yourself and do something else, and just like you said, just dismiss it. That's not me, and move on.
Right.
That's not me, and move on.
Yeah.
And and the easiest way is to pet your dog, go outside for a walk, take a bath, have a cup
Right.
of
You gotta,
coffee, do something that
yeah.
makes you feel better, and just keep doing that. And over a few it might take a month or 2, but it breaks the pattern and those thoughts go away because they can't play with you anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, one thing exactly, and one thing I teach my clients is I call it my 4-step no more self-sabotage system. I'll share with you guys. This one is identifying what is happening, right? So identifying that excuse, identifying that limiting belief, whatever it is. I think every excuse can be pared down to a fundamental limiting belief. I think there's I have about 10 or 12 limiting beliefs that I think exist. And so like my limiting belief is I'm not enough. I see Laurel just put in here talking about we're good enough or not enough. So every excuse I have comes down to I'm not enough. I don't do enough. So I think the first thing is to identify what those excuses are, what you think that limiting belief is, right? And then the step 2, which is what we're talking about already, is you get to acknowledge that it's not a fact. It is not a fact. It is merely an opinion that your mind formed when you were super young that you keep choosing to buy into. It is not truth. And like you said, the more you resist that or give it power, go, oh no, but that's not it. You can't just say no to it because it's
Yeah,
still going to come at you. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
you gotta make friends with it in some way. I had a client the other day talking about fear, and she was like, I'm so afraid, but I do it anyway, but I'm afraid and I do it. And I could just see like the tension like in her body about it. And I said to her, I'm like, you got to make friends with the fear. I'm like, you're pushing the fear in the other room. I'm like, you got to invite the fear to sit next to you, but tell it needs to be quiet. You know what I mean? Like you got to befriend it in some way. Like it's in the back seat, but it's with you, and it's okay if it's with you. We all have fear, but it's how much power are we giving it? But if we resist the fear and don't befriend the fear, then we're just that tightness. And I know that feeling so well, just that tightness and stasis. I tell people to name your like the voice in your head. Give it a name and be like, "Okay, Betty, thank you. Got it. Don't need that right now." you know. Sorry if anyone watching and your name is Betty. So okay, so no more self-sabotage. So you got to acknowledge, you have to identify what the limiting belief or excuse is. You get to acknowledge it is not a fact. It is not a fact. And we're so in alignment with what we're talking about, Lisa, but all this stuff is formed when we're so young and we carry it. We're just choosing to carry it with us because it's what we know. And the third thing, you get to reframe it. Now, I was one of those people for a long time that I did affirmations where I was like, oh, I'm not enough. And I'd say, no, I am enough. And I would just like chant, I am enough. And like, that shit doesn't work for me. Do you know what I mean? My mind is, no, you're lying to yourself. That's not true. So I like to say, find your new truths. How can you reframe something in a way that feels truthful and doable to you? Right. So again, like my excuse, I have no time. No, my time is my own and I choose to do with it what I will. That's truthful. That's truthful. If I had more money, then I could have the career that I want. Abundance is flowing to me and I'm doing everything I can in my career to create wealth. Truth, right? Like, how can you reframe it into something that feels truthful and doable as opposed to just trying to trick your mind into a different way? Like, I found that never worked for me. So, I love to reframe it again in something that feels in control and truthful to you. So, when that excuse arises, you can say, no, I do have all the time for me and I get to choose how I use it, whatever that is.
I love the reframing. That it works wonderfully. And
Yes.
even for older actors, there's
Oh,
you can
yeah.
just I'll Google it. It's like there's actors who never I forget who it is, but there's several of them, I'm sure, that started out when they were in their 50s, and
Yes.
they're huge actors.
So many. So
It's
many.
yeah, it's so you don't have to ever give up on your dreams because your higher self has already created it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you have to be on that dimension.
Yes.
Because if you're thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm crappy, I'm a piece of crap, which is a lot of what I had, and I inherited it, and I cleared it, it's like the more you are in a lower dimension for a long time, you ask more. So you have actually created a better future. So it's the deeper you've dove,
Right.
the better higher level future. That's why you'll hear stories about people who came out of like really bad stuff and all at once they shot into the light. It's because they were down here for a while and it's a rubber band effect. And then when they finally let go of the resistance and understood they were worthy, then they shoot into the light in a big way.
Yep.
And
Totally.
I so love that you have the mindset stuff because that's so deep with people. You as an actor, you can't just be gorgeous and pretty and do yourself.
About
You've
that.
got to be real because people now, especially now, people feel it.
Oh
You can
yeah.
see, you can, when you see a movie and an actor and people who are emoting emotion they're with it, they're real, then
Mhm.
it triggers. See, we're all psychic. Everybody's psychic. And so you feel that vibration.
Yeah.
You can feel if they're being fake. I used to call people, I asked when I first started waking up my mentor, Michael McAvoy, I said, why are all these people so plastic?
Mhm.
Because
Mm.
I could feel this. They projected, this is who I am. And it was like a unreal plasticness. And then when I addressed the person behind it, because I naturally could see, then they would just start crying
Mm.
because they didn't know I could see them. They didn't know anybody could see them. So eh, the crying let them be okay being who they are. We're all amazing beings waking up and moving to a higher level dimension. And
Mhm.
this is the MIT of the universe. It is. Earth is it. You're a master. You wouldn't be on this planet because it's dense.
Uh-huh.
And we
Yeah.
all took in different stuff. I was abused. My parents were alcoholics.
Mm.
They were, I call it living in the fear fields. I came out of the fear fields. Everybody was against us. They were trying to get us. They were trying to hurt us. The universe was against us, and
Mhm.
that's their belief systems. And when you're
Yeah,
in those
get that.
low dimensions, you attract people like that. If you think everybody's out to get you, you're going to attract people who are out to get you.
Very much.
And
For
when you
sure.
move your vibration as you move up, and so when you teach people, actors, to get real and get clear, you not only change their acting, you change their whole life.
Oh, yes. And so in 2015, I got divorced. I was married for 10 years and got divorced, and it was my choosing. No big crazy thing happened. It was amicable, but I knew it wasn't the right thing for me. And because I married into a relationship that lacked intimacy, like my parents lacked intimacy, like they lacked intimacy with me, like I wasn't seen, and I recreated that again. And as soon as I broke out of that, then my coaching business grew, my acting grew, I started narrating audio, like all this stuff started happening, releasing this pattern, releasing this old thing that I knew wasn't serving me, but I just didn't know how to get out of it. And then I finally just said, I just have to get out of it. You just have to make the choice. So I get that wholeheartedly. And not to get too esoteric, my dad passed away 2 years ago, and he carried a lot of limiting beliefs, and a lot of my bullshit was his. And I had to say, these past 2 years of my life have been lighter, more abundant, and more in flow with me, because I felt like I had to play small to make him feel better in some way. And I was holding on to a lot of his issues. So it's just all this stuff is so fascinating.
Yeah, I had that too. I had that with, even though my dad was abusive, I
Mm-hmm.
had that where I felt like I didn't want to betray him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also
Exactly.
had the thing where women don't want to make more than their man or
Right.
their husband. And
Right.
it's
Right.
it's there's so many of these programmed beliefs
Yeah.
that women are rising.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so wonderful because we were suppressed and we all take on our roles. So you chose your dad and his
Mm-hmm.
limitations, and I chose my parents and their limitations.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us were a little more ambitious
Yep.
than we we
Yep.
thought, oh, I'll go in there and by the time I'm 20, I'll be awake and I'll be we're like, okay, this place is a little denser than we thought.
Yep. Yep. Man, yeah. I moved to New York City when I was 17. I couldn't wait to get out of that house and soar. Like it was, I
Oh,
feel it.
Yeah,
anybody.
New York. Oh, you're brave.
Exactly. I wanted to make sure I shared my fourth step in the
Yeah.
no
Well,
self-sabotage system.
we got
Yeah, we got some time. And then I wanted to answer. So Laurel had a question that I would get to a point that I'd love to talk about. Yeah. Okay. So we have what we're doing. We're identifying. We're acknowledging it's not a fact. We're reframing it. And step 4 is action, which is what you were talking about earlier. But take action. So what are actions you can take to get you out of thinking of that excuse when it comes in, right? Because you've got to start to recreate neural pathways. We got to start to think differently, and think differently is based on your behavior. So if you can figure out new ways to act and take, so if one of my excuses is, oh, if I only had more money, I'd have the career that I want. No, I'm doing all the steps to create abundance in my career, in my life, the reframe. So what is a step that I can do then in that? I'm going to go balance my checkbook. I'm going to actually donate to a charity that I love right now. I'm going to whatever. What is something that you can do, an action you can take to prove that excuse, to prove that limiting belief wrong, and take an action out of it? And I feel like that's the most powerful place. Like a lot of people, when they say, oh, if only I want a partner in my life, or or all the good fish in the sea are taken, or whatever. Like, how can you reframe that? But then when you feel like, oh, there's nobody and we want to retreat, maybe the action is call a friend, tell them how you feel, post something on Facebook and be vulnerable. What could be an action to get you out of the retreating and the spiral down? And I think that's really important stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's one of the things that it really helps people, even if you see it. I was just all last year, I watched Star Trek. And Janeway, Captain Janeway, she's in the power pose with your hands on your hips. You gotta be in the power pose. And if you'll notice, she's always in the power pose because she's a captain.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually runs an energy. And so if you feel you're not feeling good, not good enough, or any of that, and you've got to make a phone call, or you've got to go on an interview or audition, just do the power pose. It works. It's great. And if one way I teach is we're literally creating our reality, where we're writing our own story.
Sure.
And so when you're having these repeat thoughts, that's the story you're writing for your future. And so as an acting coach, if you coach people to change their story and act the part, if they only did that for 10 minutes a day, it would shift their whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're running a different energy through them.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're acting the part of the Joker or something.
That might be a little different.
Yeah, they might want to do a part of somebody that they admire that's successful, but maybe not too far above them.
Mm-hmm.
Enough that they feel like, oh yeah, I can do that for 10 minutes a day and feel
Right.
that. And that'll just bring it out of them.
That's great. Yeah.
That's wonderful that you teach that. I didn't really know that people in the entertainment industry were holding a field until I got more in it, because you have to be a bright light, and that's why they call them stars. Did you know that? Because you have to be a bright light in order to take the judgment.
Right.
You've got millions of people judging you. And when you're whole in yourself, it doesn't hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're not, if you're insecure, it's going to hit you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it can spiral you down. And so what you teach them how to get those little places clear in them where they're self-confident.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey. We're all on a journey.
Oh, it is a journey, right? That's what I think clients are like, when will these excuses be gone? When will my limiting beliefs be gone? I'm like, okay, well, time out. This is a journey. They will lessen and lessen. And I believe, and maybe other people believe different, but I believe like our limiting beliefs will always be there. I believe my limiting belief of I'm not enough is part of the history. I can break the cycle of how much I buy into it, but it's something it passed down. And I feel like it's in me, but I know how to manage it. I know how to not give it power. I know how to not listen to it. But I think what happens, a lot of of people are like, oh, I thought I let go of that and now it's back. It's like, because it's there and now it's manifesting in a new way. So because you're raising up, like I think as we raise and grow in our careers, excuses change and morph, everything changes and morph. So when we feel like, I thought I handled that 2 years ago, it's like, it's back. It's just back in a new way because I'll just say it again, your bullshit is your bullshit, but it's how you manage it. Do you know what I mean? And being able to befriend it and manage it and not give it power.
Well, you're higher on the spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're on a higher dimension, something that when you're vibrating here, even a limiting belief, if you're here, this belief will be limiting. But if you're here, this belief could be empowering.
Right.
And so you just, as you move on the journey, you just don't judge them. You just go, okay, that's a new one. And I don't thank you for your service.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer require it.
Exactly.
You just dismiss them as you move to the next level.
Yep.
And the same thing with people. There's some people that just can't get to the next level. And you can just love them for who they are and bless them. Yeah. But when you're around them, if you feel like you got slimed, you got to move on and just just let it go and just move on. That's one thing I had too that I had to clear as a woman is feeling like I always had to be nice.
Oh yeah, totally.
I always had to be a good girl. I can be nice and say no.
Right. I can be nice and have boundaries.
Yeah, I can be nice and have boundaries and move on. It's so, this has been such a pleasure, Jody. What is your offer? What is your free gift for a wonderful
yes so I have an ebook that I'd love to share. It's called the 7 Steps to be a Working Actor. My main clients that I work with are actors, so I really walk you through my 7-step system and what that is to really tap in and look at the 7 facets of the career that you get to create to have the career that you want. That was formed over my 20 years of being an actor in New York, my 13 years of being a career coach, and figuring out what works and what doesn't, and really piece that all together. And the mindset stuff is really step number 1. So I have 6 other steps that I teach about. One of them being branding. I talk about marketing. I know in the chat here, I saw that Laurel said, what if we do think we're good enough? So it sounds like you've mastered some of the mindset stuff, but you still don't have an agent or a manager. Well, Laurel, I really feel that branding is really the fundamental piece. So those are the 2 things that I teach is like mindset and branding. And I do talk about that in my ebook, and then all other stuff on my website that I share about that. But I think those 2 pieces together are super powerful, because branding for me is tapping into your authentic self, right? It's not about putting on armor and like trying to be what you think everyone wants you to be. It's peeling away the onion layers to show people who you really are, but you need to get out of your own way to allow people to see that first. So that's why I think those 2 pieces work nicely together. So yeah, so I have my ebook, 7 Steps to be a Working Actor. You can go to my website, jodybentleycareercoach.com. I have a lot of other free resources on there as well. And yeah, I'm all over social and stuff. So
that's great.
Thank you.
Because I can't.
Feel free to share your business.
Not many things at once.
Oh, thank you.
I can try. They've found that women have more capacity than men to focus on multiple things.
Yes,
because you got the kids so genetically we can focus on. But
I know.
And that's why guys are.
I had a whole debate.
What's your plan? No.
Right. Well, I'm all about the plan. But my husband and I had a huge debate the other day about he doesn't think multitasking exists, and I'm like, hold on. Oh, thanks, Ingrid. Thanks,
yeah, that's cool. So does anybody else have questions for Jody?
Anybody?
If you do, just unmute yourself.
Jody, do you help writers at all?
My course that I just launched called Dare to be Unstoppable, I have all creatives in that. So I have writers, I have directors, and that is a course really about unmining your limiting beliefs. Ingrid and Sheila in the chat are in that course. That is about unmining your limiting beliefs and moving forward to create your plan and your strategy to get your work out in the world. So I do work with actors and writers and directors and in that course specifically, but my coaching and my other program is geared specifically towards actors.
Okay.
But yeah.
How are your classes delivered like this?
Yeah, I have my online course that which is Dare to Be Unstoppable. I have a membership course for actors, and then I run mastermind groups actually as well. So I have 3 mastermind groups that I run over Zoom like this. It's a max of 6 people. So it's really like one-on-one coaching in a group setting. We work through obviously limiting beliefs, excuses, but also branding, marketing, strategy, social media strategy, anything that you need. And it's really lovely in a group setting, as I'm sure Lisa, I think you run power groups as well, just to bear witness to everyone else's journey, realize that you're not alone, and learning from everyone else. That power of the group mind is really powerful.
Yeah,
So
it's helpful.
yeah,
But
and all
it
that's
does
on
take
my
a bit to be
website.
seen. And if any of you, like people, there's some people that don't have their videos on. A lot of people go through that, being seen. That's a limiting belief
Yeah.
issue.
I,
And
I,
so just being seen, even on Zoom, and
mm,
then like you said, Jody, you have them also do Facebook Lives or something to get their, just to be seen and appreciated and understood. It helps people move forward.
yeah,
And,
totally.
and it, once you do it, it gets easier.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. I think that's the biggest thing with creatives is I think most of my clients, myself included, became an actor to be seen. I became an actor to be seen because I wasn't seen at home. Do you know what I mean? But then there's fear in that. So it's, well, see me, but don't really see me. Do you know what I mean? I want to be
Yeah.
seen, but I don't want you to see me. So it's that push and pull a lot that I think
Well,
happens.
we had a lot of that. Let me put Jody's link in again. We had a lot of that as little kids. At least my generation, children are to be seen and not heard.
Mm,
And so
right.
we were seen, but if we were seen, we were usually punished.
Hmm.
Right. So I
Right.
had to clear that,
Yeah.
allow myself to be seen.
Yeah.
Jody, please stay on as long as you can. You've been just a wonderful guest.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me. And it was really nice being here with all of you.